Hi everyone, I'm David Wismer, a recent graduate of the Metis Data Science Bootcamp, and during that bootcamp we had a data engineering module for which we were meant to build a data pipeline that would create some sort of end product on an ongoing basis in an automated fashion. And for that project, I built a series of bouquet dashboards all centered around the state of Bitcoin. So the goal of my project was to create a daily dashboard that combines a variety of relevant data points from around the web to create a single resource for viewing the current state of Bitcoin. This included building and standardizing a data pipeline to populate the dashboard, eliminating the need for visiting several different websites, and developing and providing novel insights that you wouldn't necessarily find in these other resources. So let's start with the data pipeline itself. My data sources were one, Jesse.trade, which is a trading AI for which you can get price information about a variety of different cryptocurrencies. And then I also use the Glassnode API to get what are called on-chain metrics. These are things like active addresses or Bitcoin mining information, things that are indicative of usage and demand of the blockchain rather than just price information. I used pandas and NumPy for data manipulation in order to calculate trading indicators and also put the information into a classification model, which I built with scikit-learn. Data storage was done with Postgres and SQL Alchemy. And ultimately, all of the information was organized on a series of bouquet dashboards. So what do all these different trading indicators mean? I won't get into the nitty-gritty of each, but I will go through 4 different categories that they fall into. The first is price action. Candlesticks, these green and red figures that you see on a lot of trading charts, are indications of max and min prices during a period, and then also the movement of the price during the period. Green means that went up, red means that the price went down. Trading volume is also an important factor in price action. The next is trend and momentum. Ichimoku Cloud is a set of trading indicators that are becoming very popular. I will go through this on the dashboard demo here in a bit. MACD and RSI are also very popular momentum indicators. Next is on-chain metrics. As I mentioned, these are things not just related to the price of Bitcoin, but also to the blockchain. Things like net unrealized profit and loss, stock to flow, which is a valuation method for Bitcoin, and percent supply in profit, indicating the number of people that own Bitcoin that are actually in the money at the moment. Volatility and divergence are the final category of indicators. Things like Bollinger Bands, and then also price volume divergence. For example, if price is going up, but trading volume is coming down, it could be an indication that price is about to come down as well. So with that, let's go ahead and get into the dashboard demo. When you open the dashboard, the first thing you'll see is a random forest prediction of what's going to happen to price in the next week. So here we see we've got a 27% chance of price going up, 73% chance of it going down. Of course, if I could make accurate predictions about the price of Bitcoin, maybe I wouldn't necessarily have needed to be in this bootcamp in the first place. So this model needs a lot of work, but it's an interesting thing for future work for this particular project. Next is the Ichimoku Cloud. And as I mentioned, there's a whole lot going on. It's a big series of indicators. Let's go ahead and filter down to maybe just the prior 10 weeks. And then we can kind of see what's going on here a little bit more. You know what, maybe a little bit more time just to see a little market top here. So what we see is the cloud itself, this green and red area. And then also we have some lagging indicators, what are called the Tenkin and the Kijun, these blue and red lines. And then each of these candlesticks, as I said, reflects a single daily period. So you can see the opening, closing, high and low price for that given date. And then, as is commonly shown in charts like this, we have volume at the bottom. This is trading volume for each given day. And then also MACD. Down here at the bottom, I also have a kind of novel indicator trying to show what are called a Kumo twist. This is when we see in the future when a cloud flips from green to red or red to green. A green to red is a bearish twist, red to green is bullish. So this is kind of a different way of looking at that. Moving on is Bollinger Bands is what comes up next. And so what we see here is a measure of volatility. So here we've got a really large Bollinger Band on one given date, whereas here we have a much smaller Bollinger Band. When we get big moves in price action, we tend to get these large Bollinger Bands, and price tends to come back to this midline in orange. And when we have a Bollinger Band that is tight for a significant amount of time, you need to be ready for a big move, because that's usually an indication that a big move might be coming. Again, we see trading volume, and here's RSI. These dotted lines are indications of when RSI becomes oversold, or when a stock or cryptocurrency becomes oversold or undersold. And so here we're not deriving a whole bunch of information when it's in the middle. And again, we've got some kind of novel ways of visualizing Bollinger Bands, both in terms of the size of the Bollinger Band and then also the price position within that Bollinger Band. What I have next are a novel set of visualizations for on-chain metrics. And what this is showing is, rather than graphing the price alongside whatever the metric might be, the on-chain metric is shown using a color coding. So here we've got green and yellow, which correspond with belief and denial, optimism and anxiety. And let's go ahead and give ourselves a bigger period here, 104 weeks perhaps, even longer. Let's just show all. So what we see here with net unrealized profit and loss in particular is that in these red zones, it's generally when people are very fearful or capitulation, a good time to buy. Once you get up into the green and blue, it means that kind of a lot of people are in the money at this moment, and it might be a time to sell because a lot of people are optimistic at the time, and that's generally when crashes tend to occur. As you can see here, we were in green for quite a long time and saw a crash. I've got other metrics following the same kind of methodology here with the color coding. This is stock to flow deflection ratio, market to thermocap, percent supply and profit, and then also a Puel multiple. Now let's move on to divergences. And so what we're seeing here is the slope of X periods regression line. So it'll be easier to see the larger of a look back period we have. So if we look at, say, 60 days or even 100 days, 120 days, say we're looking at price versus volume. And what we can see is that here, for instance, price has a positive slope for its 120-day regression line, whereas volume has a quite negative slope, indicating that we have a divergence here, meaning that volume is moving downward while price is moving upward, a potential indication of reversal. An easier way to actually look at this, though, is on this graph down here. So this white line represents price. Obviously, we had a huge spike toward the end of 2020. And what we're seeing here is we're looking at a price divergence with volume over a 30-day look back period. And here we can look at a different percentile if we wanted to. But what we're seeing is that we've got a big red period showing that we have a bearish divergence consistent with a potential reversal. And then that reversal did eventually happen. This could have been an indication that, it might be time to think about selling your Bitcoin. And that about does it for the dashboard. So let's flip back to the presentation. I just wanted to quickly show some statistics behind the random forest classifier that I built to show whether price is going to go up or down. As I mentioned, the usability of it is certainly suspect. So this first confusion matrix here is normalized by actual, which means the rows add up to 100%. So if we look at, say, the bottom right corner, what is it telling us? It's saying that when the true classification was sell, meaning you should sell your Bitcoin, when price is going to go down in the next week, 94% of the time, the model said to sell. So that's a good thing. But if you look at the top row, When it was time to buy, the model only said to buy 32% of the time, whereas it said to sell 68% of the time. So the model is obviously biased toward selling your Bitcoin. It's maybe a bit conservative in that respect. If we flip over and now we look at normalize by prediction, this now has the columns adding up to 100%. So what this is saying is that in the bottom right corner, when my model says to sell, 68% of the time, the correct thing to do was to sell. And when it says to buy, 78% of the time, that was the correct thing to do. You should have bought Bitcoin. It went up in the next week. So not a whole lot of takeaways from this model. It's unclear how to use it exactly. It looks like maybe when it says to buy, that it's maybe a good thing to do. But when it says to sell, you need to be a little bit more skeptical. Some more research is definitely necessary to make this model useful. So, speaking of future work, what I'd like to do is add additional time frames to the dashboards, being able to look at hourly and other data, maybe weekly data rather than simply daily dashboards. Additional cryptocurrencies, of course, looking at Ethereum and other popular cryptocurrencies would be a logical next step. Maybe implementing a cloud computing solution to speed this up and maybe make a global version of this application. As of now, it's only run locally on a computer. Price prediction model refinement, certainly, as I mentioned. I'd like to add Tableau style interactivity to the dashboards. And finally, sentiment analysis. I actually have done some sentiment analysis projects, and I will provide links to those in the description of the video below. So thank you for your time today, for paying attention to my presentation here. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. You can also follow the links in my description to look at my GitHub or my Medium articles and see what else I've been doing. Thank you.